Why are you living out there? Why are my parents living in a barn with a cow? Who did this to you?
Marcus.
Marcus, you came. You came.
I didn't understand what I signed. I was scared. They made me feel like I had no choice.
Marcus Reed stepped out of a rented black SUV with an envelope still pressed in his hand. Inside that envelope was proof that his life had changed forever. He had hit the jackpot. He had come home to Ohio believing his parents would be waiting on the porch, laughing, crying, maybe scolding him for staying away too long, but strangers sat in their chairs. Strangers drank coffee from his mother's mugs, and behind the house, in a leaning shed that smelled of damp hay and old animals, Marcus found his mother curled on a pile of blankets. His father sat beside her, staring at the floor, too ashamed to lift his eyes. That was when Marcus understood the money had not brought him home in time. It had only brought him home to the truth. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. 3 days earlier, Marcus had still been just another tired man trying to make it through one more shift. He lived in Dayton, Ohio, in a small upstairs apartment above a closed laundromat. The hallway smelled like old carpet and rainwater. The heat worked when it wanted to. His kitchen table had one loose leg, so he kept a folded piece of cardboard under it to stop it from rocking while he ate. Every morning before sunrise, Marcus pulled on his delivery jacket, checked the weather, and went downstairs to his aging white van. He delivered medical supplies, pharmacy orders, groceries, whatever the company sent him. Some days he crossed half the state before lunch. Some nights he came home with his back tight, his eyes burning, and his phone full of missed calls he was too tired to return. But he always called his parents, always. His mother, Evelyn Reed, answered most of the time. Her voice had grown thinner over the last year, but she still tried to sound bright. "We're fine, baby," she would say. "Don't you worry about us." His father, Harold, usually spoke less. That was not unusual. Harold Reed had always been a quiet man. He had worked the same patch of land outside Millfield for most of his life. He fixed fences, repaired engines, grew tomatoes, and believed a man's word mattered even when money did not. Marcus had grown up poor, but never ashamed. His parents had taught him that clean hands, a straight back, and a kind heart were worth more than anything a bank could count. Their house was small, with faded blue siding and a porch that leaned slightly to the left. But it was theirs. His father had built half of it himself. His mother had planted roses along the front steps every spring. That house was the one place Marcus believed could not be taken from them. He was wrong. The lottery ticket had been an accident. He bought it at a gas station after a double route, mostly because the cashier said the jackpot was unusually high. Marcus almost laughed when she said it. Men like him did not win jackpots. Men like him counted gas money, stretched leftover soup, and sent whatever they could back home. Still, he bought one ticket. He forgot about it until the next night. When the numbers matched, Marcus did not shout. He did not fall to his knees. He sat on the edge of his bed with the ticket in his hand and felt strangely afraid. The kind of fear that comes when a door opens and you know your life will never fit back into the room it came from. The first faces that came to him were not his own. They were his mother's tired eyes, his father's cracked hands, the porch steps that needed fixing, the old roof his father kept patching with leftover shingles. The medication his mother claimed was not too expensive, even though Marcus knew better. He made the calls quietly. He confirmed the ticket. He followed instructions. He told no one at work. He did not post anything online. He did not buy a new watch or a new truck. He rented a black SUV because his van would not survive the trip. He packed a bag. Then he placed the lottery documents in a brown envelope and slid it beneath his jacket. He wanted to surprise them, not with wealth, not with pride, with relief. As the highway opened in front of him, Marcus pictured his mother standing in the doorway with one hand over her mouth. He pictured his father pretending not to cry. He pictured himself saying, "It's over now, you can rest." But when he turned onto the road leading into Millfield, the feeling in his chest changed. The neighborhood looked the same at first. Old mailboxes, gravel driveways, maple trees dropping leaves across the road. But something felt off. A few people looked up as the SUV passed. One woman stopped watering her yard, two men near a pickup truck went quiet. Marcus slowed down. He lifted one hand in greeting. No one waved back. By the time he reached his parents' house, his palms were damp on the steering wheel. There was smoke coming from the backyard grill. Someone had hung new curtains in the front window. A red pickup he did not recognize sat in the driveway. Marcus stepped out slowly. A woman he had never seen before sat on the porch in his mother's old rocking chair. A man leaned against the railing, laughing into his phone. There were paper plates on the table. A child's bicycle lay near the steps. Marcus looked at the house number. It was right. He walked toward the porch. The woman looked up at him with mild annoyance, as if he were a salesman who had come at a bad time. "Can I help you?" Marcus stared at her. "This is my parents' house," he said. The man by the railing stopped laughing. For 1 second, no one moved. Then, from somewhere behind the house, Marcus heard a cough. It was weak, dry, familiar. His whole body went cold. He stepped off the porch before anyone could stop him and walked around the side of the house. The grass had grown wild near the back fence. The old tool shed stood half-collapsed, its door hanging crooked on rusted hinges. Inside, on a pile of old blankets, Evelyn Reed turned her face toward the light. "Marcus," she whispered. He dropped the envelope. His father sat beside her, thin and silent, wearing a coat Marcus had bought him years ago. "Dad," Marcus said. Harold lowered his eye, and before Marcus could ask the first question, the back door of the house opened behind him. A familiar voice said, "You weren't supposed to come back today." Marcus turned. His uncle Daniel stood on the steps, holding a coffee mug like he owned the place. Marcus stood between the shed and the house, staring at his uncle like the ground under him had shifted. Daniel Reed looked almost the same as Marcus remembered. Same neat haircut, same heavy watch, same calm face that always made other people feel like he knew more than they did. But now he was standing on the back steps of Marcus's parents' house, holding Marcus' mother's coffee mug, speaking like Marcus was the one who had shown up where he did not belong. "You weren't supposed to come back today," Daniel said again. Marcus looked at him, then at the shed behind him. His mother was trying to sit up, one thin hand pressed against the blanket. His father reached to help her, moving slowly, like every part of him hurt. That sight pulled something sharp through Marcus's chest. "What does that mean?" Marcus asked. Daniel glanced toward the strangers on the porch, then lowered his voice. "It means you should have called first." Marcus almost laughed, but nothing about the sound came out right. "Called first? To visit my own parents?" His uncle's face tightened. "Not much, just enough." "Things have changed, Marcus." Marcus took one step closer. "Why are they in that shed?" Daniel did not answer right away. He looked past Marcus toward Harold and Evelyn, as if their condition was an inconvenience, not a disgrace. "Your father made some decisions," he said. "Some bad ones. We tried to manage the situation the best way we could." "We," Marcus repeated. Daniel nodded toward the house. "Family, people who stayed here. People who had to deal with the mess while you were gone." Those words hit Marcus harder than he expected. While you were gone. He had heard that kind of accusation before, usually from his own mind. Every late night when he wired money home. Every time his mother said she was fine too quickly. Every time his father grew quiet on the phone. He had been gone, but he had not abandoned them. Marcus turned back to his mother and crouched in front of her. "Mama," he said softly, "look at me." Evelyn tried to smile. That broke him more than tears would have. Her lips trembled, but she still tried to make her face gentle, still tried to protect him from what had already happened. "I'm okay, baby," she whispered. Marcus shook his head. "Not today." Her eyes filled. She looked down at her hands. Those hands had once packed his school lunches, fixed torn sleeves, counted grocery money at the kitchen table, without letting him see how little there was. Now they looked dry and bruised, resting on an old blanket that smelled like dust. Harold still had not spoken. He sat beside her, shoulders bent, face turned away. Marcus had never seen his father look small before. Poor, yes, tired many times, but never small, Dad, Marcus said. "Please tell me what happened." Harold's jaw moved, but no words came. His eyes stayed on the floor. Daniel stepped down from the porch. "This isn't the time," Marcus turned sharply. "Then when is the time?" Daniel's eyes flicked to the brown envelope lying in the dirt where Marcus had dropped it. For a second, his attention stayed there too long. Marcus noticed. He reached down and picked it up, sliding it back under his jacket. Something shifted in Daniel's expression, so Daniel said quietly, "You came back with money." Marcus did not answer. Daniel gave a small, dry smile. "That explains the SUV." Marcus looked toward the rented vehicle parked out front. Suddenly, he hated it. He had rented it because he wanted his parents to ride comfortably. He had imagined opening the door for his mother, helping his father into the passenger seat, driving them to dinner somewhere warm and bright. Now it looked like a mistake, a symbol, something people would notice before they noticed the hurt. "I came back for my parents," Marcus said. Daniel stepped closer, his voice still controlled. "Then maybe you should have come back sooner." The words landed in the shed like a slap. Evelyn closed her eyes. Harold flinched. Marcus felt anger rise so fast he had to breathe through it. He wanted to grab his uncle by the collar and demand every answer at once. But his mother was watching him. His father was sitting in shame, and for the first time since he arrived, Marcus understood that if he exploded, Daniel would use it. He would turn Marcus into the problem. So Marcus swallowed the heat in his throat. He stood slowly. "Who are those people in the house?" he asked. Daniel folded one arm across his chest. "Tenants. Yes. In my parents' home?" Daniel's face hardened. "The property situation is complicated." Marcus looked at the house, the porch where his mother used to shell peas in the evening, the kitchen window where she waved when he left for school, the back steps where his father used to sit after work, rubbing his hands with liniment and saying nothing, because silence was how Harold survived pain. Complicated. That was the word Daniel had chosen. Not cruel, not wrong, not shameful, complicated. Marcus turned back to his parents. "Pack whatever you have. You're leaving with me." Evelyn's Uzis widened with fear. "Marcus, no." That stopped him. "What do you mean, no?" She reached for his sleeve. Her fingers were weak, but desperate. "Please, not like this." Marcus stared at her. "Mama, you're sleeping in a shed." Her mouth trembled again. "I know, you're cold, you're sick, Dad can barely look at me, and you want me to leave you here?" "No," she whispered. "I just don't want trouble." Trouble. Marcus looked at his father, and something in Harold's face told him his mother was not only afraid of an argument. She was afraid of what could happen after it. Afraid in the way people became when they had already learned that speaking up made things worse. The anger inside Marcus changed shape. It became colder. He looked past Daniel toward the house. The strangers inside had gone quiet now. Someone was watching through the kitchen curtain. The neighborhood was watching too. Across the road, Mrs. Carter from the old elementary school stood by her mailbox, one hand pressed to her chest. When Marcus turned toward her, she looked away. That hurt in a different way. Not everyone had caused this, but everyone had seen something, and still his parents had ended up here. Marcus crouched again, this time closer to his father. He said, softer. "Just tell me one thing. Did you agree to this?" Harold's eyes finally lifted. For a moment, Marcus saw the man who had raised him. The man who taught him to tighten a bolt, to shake a hand, to never mock a person with less than you. But that man was buried under exhaustion now, under humiliation, under something too heavy to name. Harold opened his mouth, spoke first. "Harold, be careful." Marcus turned his head slowly. His father closed his mouth. That was the answer. Marcus stood again, and this time he did not look away from Daniel. "I'm taking them somewhere safe tonight." Daniel's voice dropped. "You don't understand what you're walking into." "No," Marcus said, "but I understand what I'm looking at." He helped his mother stand. She was lighter than she should have been. Too light. His father rose beside her, unsteady but stubborn enough to refuse Marcus's hand at first. Then his knees wavered, and Marcus caught him anyway. Daniel watched all of it, his face unreadable. As Marcus guided his parents toward the SUV, Evelyn clutched the sleeve of his jacket like a child afraid of being pulled back. Harold walked with his head down. At the edge of the driveway, Marcus paused and looked once more at the house. That was when he noticed something taped inside the front window. A county notice. Not old. Not faded. Fresh paper, official seal, bold black letters, property transfer ricketed. Marcus stared at it. Then from behind him, Harold finally spoke, his voice low and broken. "Don't trust family just because they're family." Marcus didn't drive right away. He stood by the open car door, the engine still off, his parents seated inside like they weren't sure they were allowed to stay there. His mother kept her hands folded tightly in her lap. His father stared out the window, not at anything in particular, just away from everything behind them. The house sat in the rearview mirror. So did Daniel. Marcus finally got into the driver's seat and closed the door. For a second, the silence inside the car felt heavier than the one outside. Then he started the engine. No one spoke as they pulled away. The road out of the neighborhood looked the same. Same cracked sidewalks, same leaning mailboxes, same places Marcus had walked as a kid. But something had shifted, not in the streets, in the way people watched. He saw it in the mirrors, faces turning, curtains moving, eyes that followed then disappeared. It wasn't curiosity. It was caution. He drove them to a small motel off the highway. Nothing fancy, clean enough, quiet, the kind of place people stayed when they didn't want questions. He checked them into a room, helped his mother sit on the edge of the bed, and brought a chair close for his father. Evelyn touched the blanket with slow fingers like she was testing if it belonged to her. "This is too much," she said softly. Marcus shook his head. "It's not enough." Harold sat down without speaking. His hands rested on his knees, but Marcus noticed they were trembling slightly. Not from cold this time, from something deeper. Marcus pulled the envelope from his jacket and set it on the small table. He didn't open it. Not yet. The weight of it was already changing things. He could feel it. People had already noticed. Daniel had noticed. "Tell me everything," Marcus said, sitting across from them. "No more protecting me, no more saying you're fine. I need the truth." Evelyn glanced at Harold. That look said everything. She was asking permission, or maybe strength. Harold closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, he still didn't look at Marcus. "It didn't happen all at once," he said. Marcus leaned forward slightly. "At first your uncle just came by more often," Harold continued, "asking questions about the land, about the taxes, about the repairs we couldn't afford." Evelyn nodded slowly. "He said he was trying to help." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "Then the bills started getting harder," Harold said. "Electric went out twice. Water almost got shut off. We were late on property tax one year." "You never told me," Marcus said quietly. "You were already sending what you could," Evelyn replied. "We didn't want to ask for more." That hit harder than any accusation. Marcus looked down at his hands. All those nights he skipped meals to send a little extra. All those times he believed it was helping. It hadn't been enough. "Daniel brought people," Evelyn went on. "Men who talked about paperwork, about making things secure. They said if we didn't update the documents, we could lose everything anyway." Marcus looked up. "What kind of documents?" Harold finally met his eyes. "Transfer papers," he said. The words sat heavy in the room. Marcus leaned back slowly. "You signed them?" Harold didn't answer right away. His fingers curled slightly, like he was holding on to something invisible. "They said it was temporary," he said at last. "That it would protect the land, that it would make it easier to manage until things got better." Marcus felt a cold weight settle in his chest. "And you believed him," he said. Harold's eyes dropped again. "He's my brother." Silence followed. Evelyn's oaked this time, her voice softer. "It wasn't just that. People in town started acting different. The Johnsons stopped coming by. Mrs. Carter still waved, but she didn't stay to talk anymore." Marcus remembered that. Even today, she couldn't hold his gaze. "They said your father was getting confused," Evelyn added. "That he didn't understand things anymore, that it was better if someone else handled it." Marcus looked sharply at his father. "They said you were losing your mind?" Harold gave a small, bitter nod. "And nobody questioned it?" Marcus asked. "They did," Evelyn said, "at first." Her voice broke slightly. "But when enough people say the same thing, it starts to sound true." Marcus exhaled slowly. That was how it worked. Not one big lie, 100 small ones. "And then," he asked. Harold's shoulders sank a little more. "They started making it harder to stay," he said. "Things broke and didn't get fixed. Supplies got more expensive. People who used to help didn't." Evelyn wiped at her eyes. "We thought if we just held on, it would pass." Marcus shook his head, but it didn't. "No," Harold said. A long pause stretched. Marcus could see it now. Not just greed, not just one bad decision. It had been pressure, steady, enough to wear them down without ever looking like force. "Why didn't you fight it?" Marcus asked, though he already knew part of the answer. Harold looked at him again, and this time there was something raw in his eyes. "Because every time we tried," he said quietly, "it got worse." That landed. Marcus sat back, running a hand over his face. He felt anger rising again, but it wasn't wild this time. It was focused. "Where are the papers now?" he asked. "With Daniel," Harold replied. "Or filed with the county?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Legal, on record, clean on the surface. Harder to undo." Evelyn reached out and touched his arm. "Marcus, please don't make this bigger than it already is." He looked at her. "They've already taken enough," she said. "We don't want trouble." Marcus held her gaze. "It's already big," he said. "You just got used to carrying it." She didn't respond, but her hand didn't pull away. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The motel parking lot was quiet, a few cars, a flickering light near the office, nothing that looked like a threat, but he knew better now. This wasn't just family. This had been allowed, maybe even supported. He turned back to them. "There's more to this," he said. "There has to be." Harold didn't argue. Instead, he said something Marcus didn't expect. "Your uncle wasn't the only one making decisions." Marcus froze. "What do you mean?" Harold hesitated. Just for a second. Then he said, "There were meetings, not here, in town, with people I didn't know." Marcus felt that cold weight shift again. "Who?" he asked. Harold shook his head. "I don't know their names, but they weren't from here." Marcus's mind started moving faster now. Land, pressure, silence, outsiders. This wasn't random. He turned back to the table, grabbed the envelope, and held it tighter than before. Money had just changed everything. And it was about to change a lot more. Before he could say anything else, his phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. Marcus stared at the screen for a moment, then answered. "Hello?" There was a pause. Then a low voice said, "If you want to understand what really happened to your parents," Marcus straightened, "you need to stop trusting what your uncle tells you." A beat, then the line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone long after the call ended, as if the voice might still be there, waiting to say more. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air tighter. "Who was that?" Evelyn asked softly. Marcus didn't answer right away. He slipped the phone into his pocket, his mind already moving ahead, trying to place the tone, the choice of words, the timing. "I don't know," he said finally, "but they knew about you." Harold shifted in his chair. "People always know more than they say." Marcus looked at him. That line wasn't just a comment. It carried weight, experience. "What aren't you telling me?" Marcus asked. Harold hesitated, then shook his head. "It's not about what I'm hiding, it's about what others are." That settled it. Marcus grabbed his keys. "I'm going back." Evelyn's face tightened. "Marcus, I won't cause a scene," he said quickly. "I just need to see something for myself." Harold watched him closely. For a moment, Marcus thought he would argue. Instead, he said, "Be careful who you ask questions to." Marcus nodded once, then stepped out into the night. The drive back felt shorter this time. Or maybe his mind was just louder. Every detail replayed. Daniel's eyes lingering on the envelope, the county notice in the window, the way neighbors looked away too fast. It wasn't just silence. It was practiced silence. He didn't pull into the driveway this time. He parked down the street, killed the engine, and sat there for a moment. The house was quiet. Lights on, shadows moving inside. Marcus got out and walked slowly, not straight toward the house, but past it, like he belonged there, like he wasn't looking for anything. Mrs. Carter's porch light flicked on as he passed. He stopped. She stood at the doorway, arms crossed, watching him. This time she didn't look away. "Evening, Marcus," she said. Her voice sounded older than he remembered. "Evening, Mrs. Carter." A pause stretched between them. "Not uncomfortable, just careful." "You came back fast," she said. "I didn't come back fast enough," Marcus replied. Her expression shifted. Something softened, then tightened again, like she was deciding how much she could afford to say. "You saw them," she said. Marcus nodded. "And you saw the house," she added. "Yes." Another pause. Mrs. Carter stepped off the porch slowly. She looked down the street, then back at him. "You shouldn't be walking around here alone asking questions," she said quietly. "I'm not asking questions," Marcus said. "Not yet." She let out a small breath. "That's how it starts." Marcus studied her face. She had been his teacher once. The one who stayed after class when he struggled. The one who told him he was capable of more than his situation. Now she looked tired. "Who called me?" Marcus asked. Her eyes flickered. "I didn't say anything about a call," she replied. Marcus held her gaze. "You didn't have to." Silence again. But this time it leaned in his favor. Mrs. Carter stepped closer, lowering her voice. "People talk," she said, "but not where they can be heard." "Why?" Marcus asked. "Because some things stopped being small a long time ago." That line hit differently. Marcus felt it click into place. Not fully, but enough. "This isn't just about my uncle," he said. Mrs. Carter gave a faint, sad smile. "You're starting to see it." Marcus took a step closer. "Then help me understand it." She looked past him toward the house. The curtains were still drawn, but someone inside shifted, watching. "Your uncle didn't get that house because he's smarter than everyone else," she said. "He got it because he knew when to move." "Move on what?" She hesitated, then she said, "Information." Marcus frowned slightly. "What information?" Mrs. Carter exhaled slowly. "There's been talk for months about development, a new highway expansion, something that would run close enough to this area to change everything." Marcus felt his pulse pick up. Change how? Land value, she said. What's barely worth anything now won't stay that way. Marcus looked back at the house. And my parents' land? Her silence was the answer. Marcus's jaw tightened. Yes, and he moved early. Yes, Marcus let that sink in. It wasn't just greed. It was timing, strategy. Pressure applied at the right moment before anyone else understood what was coming. Who else knows? He asked. Mrs. Carter shook her head slightly. More people than you'd like. And nobody said anything. She met his eyes. Some tried. What happened? They were told to stay in their place, she said, or reminded why it was safer to do so. Marcus felt anger rise again, but it stayed controlled. This isn't right, he said. No, she agreed. It isn't, but it's happening anyway, yes. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, thinking fast now. Land, documents, pressure, silence, outsiders, a system. Where do I find proof, he asked. Mrs. Carter looked at him for a long moment, like she was measuring how far he was willing to go. That's the problem, she said. Most of it looks legal on paper, but not all of it. She hesitated again. Then she said, check the county records, timeline matters. Things moved too fast. Marcus nodded slowly. That was something. Why are you helping me? He asked. Her expression softened, just a little. Because I watched your mother teach half this neighborhood how to stretch a meal, she said. And I watched your father fix things no one paid him to fix, a beat, and I watched people forget that. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't need to, Mrs. Carter stepped back toward her porch. Be careful, Marcus, she said. People who think they're protecting something don't like being exposed. Marcus nodded. As he turned to leave, her voice stopped him one more time. There's something else, she said. He turned back. One of the witnesses on those papers, she continued. He's been asking questions lately. Quiet ones. Marcus's attention sharpened. Who? She shook her head. I don't know his name. But he works near the old grain lot by the edge of town. Marcus stored that immediately. Why now? He asked. Mrs. Carter looked toward the house one last time. Because people get brave, she said softly, when they realize they're not the only ones who were afraid. Marcus stood there for a second longer. Then he walked back to his car. As he drove away, his phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. He answered this time without hesitation. I went back, Marcus said. A short silence. Then the voice replied, lower now. Then you already know this isn't about your family anymore. Marcus tightened his grip on the wheel. Then what is it about? A pause. Then the voice said something that made his chest go cold. It's about who gets rich and who gets erased. Marcus barely slept. He sat in the chair by the motel window, watching the parking lot as if something might happen if he looked away. His phone rested in his hand, screen dark now, but the last words still echoed in his mind. Who gets rich and who gets erased? It didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a fact. Behind him his parents slept. Or at least they tried to. His mother shifted often, her breathing uneven, her body still adjusting to a bed that wasn't cold or damp. His father hadn't moved much at all. He lay on his back, eyes closed, but Marcus could tell he wasn't resting. By morning, Marcus had already made a decision. He wasn't going to wait. Get dressed, he told them gently. We're going to a doctor. Evelyn shook her head immediately. Marcus, no, that costs, I'll handle it, he said. She looked at him, really looked this time. Not just at his face, at his clothes, at the way he stood. Something didn't add up anymore. You keep saying that, she whispered. Marcus didn't explain, he just helped her to her feet. The clinic wasn't far, small, not the kind of place people went unless they had to, but it was clean, and it had a doctor who didn't ask too many questions before doing his job. They didn't wait long. When the nurse called Evelyn's name, Marcus walked beside her, one hand steady at her elbow. Harold followed a step behind, slower but determined not to fall behind again. Inside the exam room, the doctor moved quickly, checked her pulse, her breathing, asked quiet questions that Evelyn tried to answer like everything was normal. It wasn't. The doctor stepped back after a few minutes, his expression tight but controlled. How long has she been like this? He asked. Marcus hesitated. Too long, he said. The doctor nodded once. He had seen this before, not in one dramatic moment, but in slow decline, the kind people ignored until they couldn't. She's severely dehydrated, he said, malnourished, weak. This didn't happen overnight. Marcus felt something twist inside him. Evelyn looked down at her hands again. I told you I'm fine, she murmured. The doctor didn't argue with her. He turned to Marcus instead. She needs fluids, rest, proper food, and monitoring, he said. If this continues, it could turn serious very quickly. Marcus nodded. Do whatever you need to do. The doctor studied him for a second. There will be costs, I'll pay. The answer came too fast, too certain. The room shifted. Evelyn looked up sharply. Harold's eyes moved to Marcus, searching. The doctor gave a small nod. All right. When he stepped out to arrange things, the silence that followed felt heavier than before. Marcus, Evelyn said softly. Where is this coming from? Marcus leaned against the counter, arms crossed. He didn't want to say it like this, not in a clinic room, not while she looked like that. But there was no clean way to do it. I got lucky, he said. Harold's eyes narrowed slightly. Lucky how? Marcus hesitated. Then he said it. I won the lottery. The words didn't land right away. Evelyn blinked like she hadn't heard correctly. Harold just stared at him. Marcus let out a breath. It happened a few days ago. I didn't tell anyone. I just wanted to come home first. Fix things quietly. Silence. Then Evelyn shook her head slowly. No, that kind of thing doesn't happen to us. It did, Marcus said. Harold looked away first, not in disbelief, in something else. Guilt, you came back to help us, he said quietly. Marcus nodded. And we were already here, Harold added. Marcus didn't answer. Evelyn's eyes filled. We didn't want to be a burden, she whispered. That broke something in him. You're not a burden, Marcus said, sharper than he meant to. Then softer, you never were. She looked down again. We didn't know how bad it looked, not from the outside. Marcus almost said something, then stopped. Because he understood. When things get bad slowly, you stop seeing it clearly. You adjust, you survive. You tell yourself it's temporary. Until someone walks in and sees it all at once. The door opened. The nurse returned with a wheelchair. We're going to move her for fluids, she said gently. Marcus stepped aside as they helped Evelyn into the chair. She looked smaller now, not just weak, exposed. As they wheeled her out, Marcus stayed close. Harold followed, his steps uneven. In the hallway, a familiar voice cut through the quiet. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. Marcus turned. Daniel stood at the end of the hall, hands in his pockets, expression calm like always. Too calm. How did you? Marcus started. People talk, Daniel said. Especially when someone shows up with money out of nowhere. Marcus felt the tension rise again. This isn't your concern. Daniel glanced at Evelyn being wheeled away, then back at Marcus. It became my concern the moment you decided to turn this into something public. Public, Marcus repeated. You left them in a shed. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. I managed a situation you weren't here to handle. Marcus stepped closer. You didn't manage anything. You took advantage. Daniel leaned in just enough that no one else could hear him clearly. You don't understand what you're dealing with, he said quietly. Marcus didn't back away. Then explain it, he replied. Daniel shook his head once. Not here. A pause. Then he added, softer, almost like a warning. Because if you push this too far, it won't just affect me. Marcus felt that land. This isn't just about the house, is it? He said. Daniel didn't answer. But he didn't deny it either. The silence between them said enough. Marcus looked past him down the hallway where his mother had disappeared, then back at Daniel. I'm not stopping, Marcus said. Daniel studied him for a long moment. Then he said something that didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like certainty. Then you're already in deeper than you think. Marcus held his gaze. For the first time, he realized something clearly. This wasn't just a fight over a house. And whatever it was, he had just stepped right into it. Marcus didn't respond to Daniel. Not there, not in that hallway. He just turned and walked after the nurse, his jaw tight, his hands steady even though everything inside him wasn't. Daniel's words followed him anyway. Not loud, not dramatic, just there, sitting under everything else. Deeper than you think. Marcus stayed at the hospital most of the day. He watched his mother sleep after the fluids started. Her breathing evened out slowly, like her body was remembering something it had been denied for too long. His father sat nearby, quiet as always, but not distant this time. Just present. That alone felt different. By late afternoon, Marcus stepped outside. He needed air, but more than that, he needed direction. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through contacts he barely used. Numbers saved over time. Delivery jobs, customers, one or two names that meant something more. He stopped on one. A legal office he had delivered to months ago. Small firm. Nothing flashy, but the man there had spoken to him like he wasn't invisible. That mattered now. Marcus hit call. It rang twice. Law offices, how can I help you? I need to speak to someone about a land dispute, Marcus said. A pause. Are you a current client? No. What's the situation? Marcus glanced back toward the hospital entrance. Then he said it clearly. My parents were pushed out of their home. Their documents. I think they were manipulated. The tone on the other end shifted. That's not something we handle casually, the voice said. Do you have proof? Not yet. Another pause. Then you need more than a phone call, the voice replied. Come in tomorrow morning, Marcus nodded, even though they couldn't see him. I will. He ended the call and stood there for a moment. That was the first step. Not anger, not confrontation, structure. Inside, his mother stirred when he returned. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the light. When she saw him, something in her face softened. You're still here, she said. Marcus pulled a chair closer. I'm not going anywhere. She studied him for a second. You've been thinking a little. That usually means trouble, she said, a faint smile trying to form. Marcus didn't smile back. It means I'm not letting this go, he said. Her expression changed. Not fear, exactly, something more complicated. Tired people don't fight the same way strong people do, she said quietly. Marcus leaned forward. Then I'll fight for you. She looked at him for a long moment. You always did, she said. That stayed with him. Later that evening, Marcus walked down the hospital hallway to get coffee. That's when he saw him. A man leaning against the vending machine near the corner. Not dressed like a patient, not like staff either, just watching. When Marcus approached, the man straightened slightly. You're Marcus, he said. Marcus stopped. Who are you? The man glanced around, then lowered his voice. You've been asking questions. Marcus didn't confirm, he didn't deny. I've been listening, he said instead. The man nodded slowly. That's good. Listening gets you further than talking around here. Marcus studied him, mid-30s maybe, worn jacket, eyes that didn't settle in one place too long. You called me, Marcus said. The man didn't react much. That was answer enough. Names don't matter right now, he said. What matters is you don't trust what you're being told. I already don't, Marcus replied. Good. A short silence passed. Marcus stepped closer. Then tell me something real. The man hesitated. Then he said, the papers your father signed, they weren't the first version. Marcus felt that land immediately. What do you mean there were drafts, the man said. Earlier versions, different terms. Shared ownership, protections. Marcus's focus sharpened. And the final version? Stripped down, he said. Clean, fast, one-sided. Marcus's jaw tightened. That means it was changed. Yes, after my father saw it. Yes, Marcus exhaled slowly. That was it. Not proof yet, but direction. Where are those drafts? He asked. The man shook his head. Not somewhere easy. They don't leave that kind of thing lying around. Then how do I get them? The man gave a small, humorless smile. You don't, not directly. Marcus stared at him. Then why tell me? Because someone needs to know it's not just bad luck, he said. It was planned. That word hit harder than anything else. Planned. Marcus leaned back slightly. Who else is involved? The man looked toward the hallway, then back at Marcus. More than your uncle, he said. People with interest in that land. People who don't live there, but will profit from it. Marcus nodded slowly. It matched everything. The highway, he said. The man didn't confirm. But he didn't need to. Be careful, he added. You start pulling at this, it won't stay quiet. Marcus met his gaze. It already isn't. The man studied him for a moment longer. Then he said something that shifted everything again. One of the witnesses on your father's paperwork, he said. He's nervous. Marcus's attention locked in. Why? Because he didn't know what he was signing either, the man replied. And now he's realizing what it led to. Marcus felt the path forming. Where do I find him? The man hesitated. Then he said, edge of town, old grain lot. Works with the motorcycles sometimes. Marcus nodded. Same place Mrs. Carter had mentioned, 2 sources, same direction. That wasn't coincidence. That's all I can give you, the man said, stepping back. Marcus didn't stop him. As the man walked away, Marcus stood there, piecing it together. Drafts, changed terms, pressured signatures, silent witnesses, a system. And for the first time, Marcus didn't just feel angry. He felt ready. Back in the room, his father looked up as he entered. You found something, Harold said. Marcus paused. Then he nodded once. I found a crack, he said. Harold held his gaze. Cracks don't stay small. Marcus looked at his mother, resting now, breathing steady, then back at his father. They won't, he said. That night, as Marcus sat by the window again, he wasn't watching the parking lot anymore. He was planning, because tomorrow he wasn't going back to the house. He was going to the place where someone had almost told the truth. And this time, he wasn't leaving without it. The community hall felt smaller than Marcus remembered. Maybe it was the people, too many of them. Neighbors who used to wave from porches now sitting stiff in folding chairs, avoiding eye contact. A few whispered. Most stayed quiet. Marcus stood near the back at first, watching. His parents sat in the front row. His mother looked stronger than she had in days, but still fragile. His father sat beside her, hands folded, shoulders slightly hunched. Not defeated, just carrying something heavy. At the far side of the room, Daniel stood with two men Marcus didn't recognize. Clean clothes, confident posture, the kind of people who didn't belong here unless they had a reason. Marcus felt it again. This wasn't just family. When the meeting started, it wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no sudden accusations, just a town official speaking in a steady voice, explaining that concerns had been raised about recent property transfers, neutral words, but everyone knew what it was about. Marcus stepped forward when his lawyer gave him a small nod. That alone changed the room. People shifted, eyes lit. A few finally looked at him directly. The lawyer spoke first. Calm, measured, he laid out the timeline, dates, signatures, changes in documents that didn't match earlier drafts. Marcus watched Daniel the entire time. No reaction. Not at first. Then the witness was called. A man from the edge of town. Same one Marcus had been told about. He walked in slowly, like every step cost him something. He kept his eyes down until he reached the front. State your name, the official said. The man did. Were you present when the property documents were signed? A pause. Yes. Did you witness the signing willingly? Another pause. Longer this time. The room felt tighter. Marcus could hear someone shift in their seat behind him. I signed as a witness, the man said. That's not the question, the lawyer replied gently. Did you understand what you were witnessing? The man swallowed. No. A ripple moved through the room. Daniel shifted his weight slightly. Still calm, still controlled. The lawyer continued. Were you pressured to sign? The man hesitated. Marcus held his breath without realizing it. Then the man nodded once. Yes. The word didn't come out loud, but it was enough. The room changed. Not loudly. Not all at once, but something broke. A quiet agreement that had been holding everything in place. The lawyer stepped closer. Pressured by who? The man looked up for the first time. His eyes moved toward Daniel. He didn't point. He didn't need to by them. Now the room reacted. Voices started. Low at first, then louder. The official raised a hand. Order, please. But it was already slipping. Marcus didn't move. He stayed where he was, watching his father. Harold was staring straight ahead, his face tight, his jaw set. Then, slowly, he stood up. That was the moment everything stopped again. The room quieted on its own. Harold wasn't a man who spoke often. People knew that, which made it matter when he did. I signed those papers, Harold said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. I won't pretend I didn't. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. Harold continued, steady but strained. But I didn't understand them the way they were explained to me. He glanced down briefly, then back up. They told me it was temporary, that it would help with taxes, that it would protect the land. A few people shifted in their seats. They told me I was doing the right thing for my family, he said. His voice tightened slightly on the last word. Marcus watched Daniel now, still composed, but not as still as before. Harold took a slow breath. I was tired, he said. And I was scared. That word landed hard. I didn't want to lose what little we had, he added. And they made me feel like I already had. Silence followed. Not empty. Heavy. Marcus felt it in his chest, in his throat, in the way his mother reached for his father's arm without looking at him. The lawyer stepped forward again. To be clear, he said, you're stating that you signed under misleading conditions. Harold nodded once. Yes. And if you had known the full terms? Harold didn't hesitate this time. I wouldn't have signed anything. That was it. That was the break. The official leaned forward, exchanging a quiet word with someone beside him. Papers were moved, notes taken. Then the decision came. This matter will be suspended pending further investigation, he said. Ownership rights are temporarily halted until the validity of the documents can be verified. It wasn't final, but it was enough. For the first time, Daniel reacted openly. This is unnecessary, he said, stepping forward. Everything was done legally. The official looked at him. That's what we're going to determine. Daniel's jaw tightened. This is a waste of time, he added. No, Marcus said quietly. Daniel turned toward him. Marcus met his gaze. It's just the first time anyone's been allowed to speak, he said. The room felt different now, not resolved, not safe, but not silent anymore. As people began to stand, voices returned, not whispers this time, conversations, questions, doubt. Marcus moved toward his parents. His mother looked at him like she was seeing something new. Not just her son, something stronger. His father didn't say anything. He just nodded once. That meant everything. Outside, the air felt sharper, clearer. Marcus stepped down the front steps with them when a voice called out behind him. He turned. It was the witness. The man looked uneasy, glancing around like he didn't trust the open space. Marcus walked back toward him. You did the right thing, Marcus said. The man shook his head slightly. Not at the beginning. Marcus didn't argue. The man reached into his jacket slowly, careful, like even the movement mattered. There's something else, he said. Marcus's focus locked in. The man pulled out a folded envelope. Worn, creased, like it had been hidden for a long time. I wasn't supposed to keep this, he said. But I did. Marcus took it. It felt heavier than it should have. What is it, he asked. The man didn't answer directly. Proof, he said. Marcus unfolded the edge slightly. Inside he saw it. Another version of the contract, different clauses, different terms. And at the bottom, a signature that wasn't his father's. Marcus looked up. The man had already stepped back. I didn't sign that one, he said quietly, but they used it. Marcus's grip tightened on the paper. Because now it wasn't just manipulation, it was something worse. And for the first time, Marcus realized this wasn't just about taking a house. It was about rewriting the truth. The final decision didn't come fast. It took weeks of review, statements, cross-checking signatures, comparing versions of documents that should have never existed in two different forms. But when it came, it was clear. The contract was declared invalid. Ownership was restored. The house was legally returned to Marcus's parents. No applause followed, no dramatic moment, just a quiet shift. Like something heavy had finally been set down. Marcus stood beside his father outside the courthouse when they heard it. Harold didn't react right away. He just nodded once, slow, like he was accepting something he had stopped believing would ever come back. His mother cried, not loudly, just enough for Marcus to notice the way her shoulders trembled as she held onto his arm. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like something being given back that should have never been taken. The house looked smaller when they returned, not broken, just tired. The porch sagged a little. The paint had faded. Windows needed fixing, but it was still standing, still theirs. Marcus didn't rebuild it into something new. He fixed what needed fixing, replaced the broken boards, cleaned the inside, made sure the heat worked, made sure the lights stayed on. He bought a new table for the kitchen, but kept the old one in the corner. His mother asked him to. It still holds memories, she said. So he left it. Days passed quietly. No reporters, no attention. Just small things. His father sitting in the same chair every morning, drinking coffee slowly. His mother moving through the house like she was relearning it, opening drawers, touching walls, pausing in doorways. One afternoon she stood in the living room longer than usual. Her hand rested against the wall. She pressed lightly, then again like she needed to be sure. It's real, she whispered. Marcus didn't say anything, he just watched. Later that week, Daniel came by. No warning, no crowd this time. He stood at the edge of the yard, not stepping onto the porch. His clothes were still clean, still put together, but something had changed. The confidence was thinner now. Marcus stepped outside to meet him. They stood a few feet apart, neither rushed to speak. I didn't think it would go this far, Daniel said finally. Marcus looked at him. You knew exactly how far it could go, he replied. Daniel didn't argue. For a moment he looked past Marcus, toward the house. I was trying to secure something, he said. For the future. Marcus let out a quiet breath. At whose cost, he asked. Daniel didn't answer. The silence stretched. Then Marcus stepped a little closer. Not aggressive, just firm. You took everything, he said. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. Marcus didn't raise his voice. But you didn't take what matters. Daniel looked at him then. Really looked. Maybe for the first time. Marcus didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. Daniel nodded once, almost to himself, then turned and walked away. No threats, no last words. Just leaving, and somehow that felt enough. That night Marcus sat on the porch with his parents. The air was calm, the kind of quiet that didn't feel empty anymore. His mother leaned back in her chair, wrapped in a light blanket. His father sat beside her, not speaking much, but not distant either. They were present, together. Marcus watched them for a long time. He thought about the moment he almost didn't come back, the extra shift he had almost taken, the ticket he almost didn't check until the next day. It could have been different. He could have stayed away just a little longer, and everything might have been gone for good. He didn't say it out loud, but he felt it. Sometimes the difference between losing everything and getting it back was just one decision. His mother broke the silence first. Stay a little longer, she said softly. Marcus smiled. I will, he replied. They sat there as the light faded. No one rushed inside. No one looked away. For the first time in a long time, no one felt like they had to stay quiet just to survive. Marcus leaned back, listening to the small sounds around him, the creak of the porch, the wind through the trees, his parents' voices low and steady, talking about nothing important. And somehow that was everything. If you've ever felt like you came back too late, maybe you didn't.